We're into the theater of the absurd around here because guess what your life is? The theater of the absurd. The more real you get, the more surreal it gets. This is the way, this is a life well lived. And if you're sober and you're alert and you're actually paying attention, this stuff is better than, you couldn't write this stuff. You just couldn't. It's just too good. It's just amazing. And the difference between people who heal from their psychological, mental, emotional, and physical issues and the people who don't are the people who have the capacity to run the energy through their system and use whatever comes to them in a way that is powerful and palpable and useful and with what there's a term in Buddhism called Vajra pride. In the West, especially in the New Age, we don't like that word pride. We have like a problem with that word pride. Definitely in the Judeo-Christian kind of sense, it's been used as a negative word. Vajra pride is no matter what's happening to you, you have a little head and shoulders about it. You have a little, dignity about what's happening in your life. And when you have a little dignity, whether it's the most challenging time you've ever had or whether you're, breezing through, you have a little dignity, you become someone who is basically a beacon of another type of possibility for humanity. Because so many people in this kind of human time, this human species, this time on the planet, Yogi Bhajan said, look, basically what's going to happen is that humans are going to make a mockery of themselves. And that's what's happening. So the lack of dignity and the lack of a certain type of kind of royalty in terms of how you treat yourself and how you treat your environments, how you treat each other, how you treat your neighbor, the lack of that is creating a mockery of the human species. And he said his prophecy was, when the humans are creating a mockery of themselves, then this is going to be the kind of shift of those who decide to behave differently and those who are kind of going down that kind of time space experience. And that's really what the prophecy of that 2012 thing is. It's not, it's not like the Earth's going to split apart. I mean, it's nothing like that. It was actually a split in a time stream of some people are, kind of going to continue to make a mockery of themselves and their environments and each other and what it means to be a human. And that's going to be a certain kind of experience. And then some people are going to choose, and these kind of gateways, these portals, these star portal moments, these galactic kind of portals. That's why we always, practice on these days, or we, use those to kind of construct how you're moving through time and space. Those moments, it's very important how you direct your energy and where and a lot of people have the same story, which was I was doing something in 2011. And it wasn't, I started to realize that that's not going to really work for me anymore. And then some things started to happen and I got on this path and, somewhere in that 2012, that's a very, common story that we hear a lot. Now those, now we're getting in 7 years into this post 2012. So we're in a consciousness cycle as we hit 2020. And so that now the stories are a little bit different, that there's other kind of portals of God. But this equinox that we just went through, heavy duty crossroads. It's the most important day of your life, Yogi Bhajan says. Well, that equinox was a heavy duty amplification of another level of kind of human possibility here on the planet. So major kind of shift on that equinox. So that's why we're hitting those portals, because you want to be directing your energy in the right way. Now, a person who has a little bit of dignity, a little bit of Vajra pride, and can utilize whatever comes at them in a way that is a really, okay, I'm going to use this. I'm going to use this energy, because energy doesn't, or we'll call it whatever's happening in your life, the waves of phenomenon, however you want to kind of describe it, whatever's kind of coming at you, those waves of phenomenon, it's very neutral. So it's not, it's not nefarious, whatever those kinds of waves of phenomenon are. So how you decide to relate to the phenomenon is the whole game here on the planet. So you have a little dignity, you decide not to make a mockery of yourself, but you don't take yourself seriously. These are all, and then you add a little chi and a little alertness of the mind and the body and a little sobriety. And I'm not talking, I'm not using that in reference to kind of whether everybody's on CBD, so don't worry. But although, they're coming out with the studies that the stuff has THC in it. So you just should know what you're doing. You should just know what you're up to. You shouldn't be like convincing yourself that that's not what's going on. Like somebody was trying to tell me, yeah, you just don't put the CBD oil on your liver. Meaning like if you put it on your liver, you're going to get high. And I was like, okay, but I thought it was not psychotropic. But you got to know what you're doing with yourself. This is post-moral. You do what you want to do, but you have to understand. And, if you're in a place where your platform is putting stuff out, you have to understand what you're doing and how that's moving. You have to be very, very careful about this stuff because as leaders, the higher you go, the more, kind of margin of error there is. So you got to be really careful about that. So sober mind, alert, you're working on the glandular system so that the pituitary gland is working correctly. That's why we're plant-based, not because of, there's a lot of moral issues around it, and you could list a bunch of them, and all the vegans in here, you can just pull out your rap sheet right now. So it's not that there isn't ethical reasons, but really the yogic science behind it is that we just want the pituitary gland to be secreting properly. And so plant-based diet optimizes that secretion. When the pituitary gland is secreting properly, you eat an egg, for 3 days it's affected. So that's not a big hit. So a lot of people can sustain that. Other types of animal flesh and that kind of stuff, it affects it longer than that. So again, post-moral, but you have to understand how am I optimizing my system and what's working for me and how can I, create the most alert and optimized kind of intuition. Now, the reason the yogis ate like this was because they weren't vegan, they drank milk, but when you don't eat animal flesh, you do have a certain pituitary secretion that creates a certain intuitive alertness. Whereas when you take the flesh of an animal in, it numbs out that alertness. So you got to know. It's not because nobody's bad, nobody's good. You just have to understand what that does and what that doesn't do. So that's kind of, when we're talking about the basis of being able to heal yourself, a little bit of dignity, a little bit of chi, a little bit of kind of moving the direction of your intuitive and alert system and mind and body in the right places. So, okay, this is, Hadijima was talking about this yesterday. It's like if you're in a bad neighborhood, you don't need to get out your phone and look up the bad neighborhood. And although I did when we were in Vancouver, we went by and we were getting longboards at the very famous place because, now I'm a skater. I'm not going to break any other bones. But I'm notoriously clumsy. But we were going to get longboards and we were driving. And I was like, I think, roll down the window. I do think those people are shooting up over there. I had that moment, so later on I had to Google about what's going on in Vancouver, and I was like, yes, they were shooting up there, over there on the street. I was right, but that's not going to help you necessarily get out of the bad neighborhood. You got to keep driving. We didn't just pull over and get out and be like, are you guys shooting up? Can we talk about that? I'd like to, process. I'm feeling a little, that's not going to help you get out of the bad neighborhood. You just got to keep going. So you need the right direction and your intuitive alertness, your intuitive GPS to get you out of the bad neighborhood. You don't need to, maybe later on you might want to take a little look at how'd you get in the bad neighborhood and what were the what wrong turns did you make to get there? But ultimately, to get out of the bad neighborhood of your own psyche, the bad neighborhood of some sort of trauma and the emotional or physical, you got to move out of the neighborhood. You got to get out of the neighborhood. You have to have enough energy, gas, fuel, direction, alertness to get yourself out of the neighborhood. It's not going to help you to Google. I mean, later, of course, I did want to know what was going on. And of course, for like almost a day, I was reading to take on all of what the difference between the Canadian drug laws and the Portugal drug laws, which are kind of interesting because Portugal is actually having some success making, all this stuff legal. Whereas Canada is not having very much success. So, just looking at all that. So you can, if you're kind of a brainiac, you can look at this stuff later, but it's not going to help you get out of it. So then we need the right direction and the ability to get ourselves in the right direction, which is a certain glandular secretion. And you have to understand, what are the things that mess with your glands? Well, there's a lot of things that mess with your glandular secretions. Intuition is not a spiritual thing. It's a biophysical thing. Now, you can amplify it through some sort of spiritual connectivity, but it's biophysical. That's why the wine situation is it doesn't matter because it's post-moral, but you got to know what is and what isn't. And then you have to move with those things, you got to move your scene the right direction. So I've been telling people, you make that balance sheet. What's affecting the glandular system? Like if I'm going to eat some eggs or drink some wine or take some medical marijuana or whatever. My mom, who has Parkinson's, and the medical marijuana does help her, a little bit. She's coming to Scotland, so I'm hoping that all of you will see her like stoned in the back of the bus in Scotland. She's really funny. She's the most fun person to be around on medical marijuana. She is hilarious. One time she was walking down the hallway. She's like, I think the hallway is crooked. And I was like, no, Mom, you're walking like this. I'm like, I love watching you be stoned. This has made my adulthood. This is the most fun thing ever. So, it's helping people. This is not we're in post-moral kind of but for you to be kind of a real amplifier of goodness, amplifier of possibility for people, amplifier of, I healed myself of this psychological. Now we're I talked about this a little bit yesterday, major conversation on the planet is what? Mental illness. Why? 90% of the planet is going insane. Just let's be clear about that. 90%, we were kind of like, okay, it's 50%. No, about 90% of the planet is having the pressure of the information age is causing imbalances. That's it. Kyle knows. This is Kyle from Love Yoga, everybody. Give her a hand. So we know, this is causing imbalances, and so you just have to kind of look at what's in your scene, what's working for you. Some people we have somebody who's in chemo, hardcore kind of situation. She's fighting. She's in Aquarian Women's Leadership Society, and she's gender non-binary, so maybe it's they, but and. The expression to us was that basically, I'm having to eat the meat because the radiation's just really taking it from me. So, we're just dealing with it. And I said to her, I was like, this is not something you need to worry about. You're fighting for your life. So you got to kind of figure out what your scene is and what's going to work for you and what's not going to work for you. But that's a sober piloting of your incarnation. And then you got to look like, all right, I like a stimulant here, I like to have a little caffeine here. What am I doing in order to replenish what that's taking from me? Because we know that coffee and caffeine, Hattie Jivens yelling at us all the time. Me and Mundave one time, we were driving down somewhere. It was a long trip, and Mundave and I, like the whole trip, we're talking about like, we're just like not really doing as much coffee as we were doing before. It's just, I don't know. It's just like it's the addiction meditation. Jivan. Like, it just totally has fallen out. Both of us were we're like kind of trying to impress Hari Jivan by having this conversation. Hari Jivan's, and we get to the place, and it was literally like we both like slammed the door to the car, and we're like, Hari Jivan, we'll meet you there. We're gonna go to Starbucks. It was hilarious, but it was like it was very deadpan. But so what you got, like things you maybe need to you think you need to do or you are doing, which is fine, right? Because we're not into the white knuckling of I'm gonna stop this, I'm gonna become a better person. That doesn't work. When has it ever worked? Look at rehabs. Rehabs. I mean, we've got rehabs I put rehabs in the same. The percentage that rehab works to the percentage that couples counseling works to the percentage that yoga studios and restaurants don't work or work. Yeah, it's all the same. It's about 5%. That's why we love each other, because it takes a lot to do this. So yoga studios and restaurants, about 5% of them work. 5% of couples counseling, something like that, might be a little less, actually works. The couple stays together. I'm just giving you statistics. 5%. And the same thing with rehab. I mean, maybe rehab is a little more than that, 7% or something like this. So we know that you have to create a biochemical change in order for the system to basically uptake to a better habit. Or you have to you have to put more energy in the system for you to be able to sustain or even have the thought. I mean, this is the thing about addiction, is that you have to be able to sustain and hold the thought that you want a different type of life. That's a neuron pattern. And so you need the same thing when you're healing yourself of the psychological, the mental, in this room, because of statistics, we got, about a third of the room at least has had some sort of sexual abuse or rape or some sort of, some attack, assault, or that kind of thing. That stuff is hard to, heal. So the same thing there is we need enough energy to basically be able to hold a new neuron pattern so that it doesn't affect the rest of our lives. So it doesn't affect, sex for the rest of our lives, relationships for the rest of our lives. And that's real. But that's an energetic and bio kind of chemical situation. So when we're working all this week, and really beyond this, we're working a little bit on this self-healing tech, because if you become somebody who can, and I was saying this to Hari Jivan last night, but he was like, nah, because I'm into martial arts, and I was like, look, the martial artists, they can just heal their bones, so I'm into this. Like, they just break the bone and then they heal it. That's like what you do as a martial artist. He's like, okay, just relax. I was like, no, I'm into it. I'm just gonna do it. And so, but that's true. That's a chi art. The way that the martial artists are doing that is it's basically they're able to put their chi, and they have a certain biochemistry from the physical and mental training that they can, knit the bone back together. So I know, it's really cool. And that's real. I mean, that's, many martial artists have that capacity. I'm being interviewed for the History Channel for some guy who, I think I said this the other day, he escaped like a prison. He's a yogi. He's a very, he has all these kind of yogic powers, and he escaped prison. He's done it multiple times, but he just did it again. He escaped prison from like this, like at the bottom of his door. There is no indication of any other tampering. And I was saying to them, I was like, look, it's for it's not Ancient Aliens, but it's one of those types of shows. And I was saying to them, I was like, you can't just think that he did it physically. I mean, meaning that like he could have just the yogis know how to just disparate. Was that the Harry Potter term? I thought it was disparate. It's disparate. It's the opposite. When you disappear. Yeah, it's the opposite. We're going to Edinburgh. I'm trying to interview J.K. Rowling. Like, we know these things. I said to Shivapri, we're going to Russia. I was like, do you think I can get an interview with Snowden? She's like, no. You can't. And then I was and then I was like, we're going to Edinburgh. You think I can get an interview with J.K. Rowling? She's like, maybe. She said, okay, maybe. But when you disparate, I mean, that's the you can when you get into these high tech kind of yogic things, there's a lot of esoterics to this. So I was telling them, it's not just that he was manipulating his bones to get under that door. We don't know exactly, but there's a lot of difference. So from the pragmatic to the esoteric, this healing tech is going to give you some major kind of capacity of your human power. It's not superhuman. It's just human. It's just human. Because if all of the chi that you're using to be neurotic, you use towards healing your mind and your body, you'd be over that stuff, today. Done. That's what I want us to be thinking about. So we're going, thank you, Kyle. I appreciate thank you. It's Kyle, and there's a woman who sits over here, Griff, who sometimes gives me a little clap. But you could be over that stuff today, and I want you to be thinking that way. It's like, just let's get over it. Let's take our life energy, replenish it for the things, if we've been through some trauma and some things that have happened, it gets depleted. That is true. So you replenish it, and then you direct it in the right way, and then we can really heal now. So that because all of you are leaders, and the wounded healer and the wounded leader, it's a passé archetype. It's super passé. Makes sense? Yeah. So when we're gonna really do well. Tegnon was like, why do you keep when we're holding our breath at the end of the ego eradicator, in class you do it so much longer than when you do it at home. At home you just exhale. And I was like, no, he was giving me shit about it. And I was like, why? Because these people have to be 10 times better than me. That's the lineage. I'm counting on you. That's what I thought, though. That's what I thought. I didn't say it because I wanted to show that to know you were back there. Live on Rama TV. It's the honeymooners. I did think it, though. I thought, the reason is because I want them to be better than me. That was what I thought, just so you know.
You were like, no, I do hold my arms up that long.
But that's the appropriate response to you, and that. Can we get a close-up on my blushing here? Thank you, my love. I know, it's so, what was Shubhapri was calling it? She's like, telenovela, what is it called? Telenovela? Last night, she was like, telenovela, welcome. But you're right, thank you for correcting me here in public on the live stream in front of 200 countries. I love you. Okay, here. No, but this is what you need in relationship. But I thought to myself, why do I do that? Well, maybe it's just because I'm lazy, but no, it's not. It's because I want you guys to be 10 times greater than me. That's the lineage. And people would ask Yogi Bhajan, all sorts of stuff. He was talking in this healer's course. He was saying, he was talking about the people asked me about why I'm sick. And he was like, I eat enchiladas all day long. I eat pizza. He's like, your diet always makes you sick. He's kind of joking because there's other reasons why he was sick, but he wanted to get out of the physical body. So, he ate anything he could constantly. He was trying to take himself out of the physical body. It was his last incarnation, and he wanted to be able to do what he could do in his subtle body, which is much more. So in this healer's course, people were, he's like, people ask me, why am I sick if I know all this stuff? He's like, it's because you have to be better than me. And you have more to do than I have to do in the physical body. I'm out of here. Right? So that was my mental response. Now you know, here in front of everyone. Thanks so much for listening to another lecture
on Reality Riffing. These are conversations and topics that I think are very important to discuss. If you enjoyed, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and share with your friends and your family. If you also want to continue to listen, bigger lectures and classes and other experiences are available on gurujagat.com.